When you think about cryptids, mermaids are not the first thing to come to mind, because I'm sure that they're classified more as like a mythical creatures or whatever, and not cryptids, but I'm not splitting hairs or scales or whatever on that whole front. Now, if you by some chance you're not sure of what a mermaid is, I'm gonna sum it up. Stemming all the way back to ancient Mesopotamia, although most of the earliest images were of mermen. I've always wanted to see a merman. But some were women. Well, their upper torso was that of a woman, but their lower half was that of a fish. They took on some of the attributes that were typically associated with Homer's sirens, like their song that would lure men to them, and tales stemmed from around the world with legends in Eastern Europe, but also reaching into China, where they were referred to as shark people, and Japan, in which they were mostly primarily fish, but retained human heads, which is, I don't know, maybe more disturbing to me, I think. In some legends, they are portrayed more as fantasy figures and simply mystical creatures that live in the ocean, but of course, others have them with more menacing intent, luring in fishermen and feasting on them, which I'm pretty sure is some of that irony that Alanis likes. So now, today, we're going to check out 10 of those. 10 movies that are very Ariel-like. 10 movies with mermaids that skew towards the horror end of things. Horror, not horrible. I mean, well, some of them are horrible, but not like the most horrible, because then this list would just be Splash 2.
Thank you. It needs more salt.
Number 10. Back in 2014, we get the confusingly titled movie, either known as Nymph, which it was released as overseas and in Australia, or its original Serbian title, Mamula, or the US released and much simpler title, Killer Mermaid, which that pretty much sums it up. And yeah, this is a Serbian film, but not a Serbian film, so don't worry. The intro gives us a young couple in which the male is lured out to sea by a sweet song, and his lady friend is then killed by a guy with a hook. Two American girls take an international trip, but Kelly has a slight issue where her brother died by drowning when she was younger, so the water makes her upset. So it's a good thing they went to an island. They run into this old Quinty character who warns them away from a little island called Mamula, telling them about a creature named Scylla. But as per the rules laid out in Horror Movie World Code of Conduct, they ignore those warnings. If you're familiar with the actress Natalie Burns, then this is the movie for you, because the movie really wants you to know how good she looks in a bathing suit. On the island, they discover a woman in a well, and some guy starts trying to kill them, and the problem is, you know exactly where this is going. Like, as soon as you see the well, you know the mermaid's in there. You know the crazy guy is feeding the mermaid, but the movie treats it like a big reveal, which it is not. Scylla comes equipped with some shoddy CG transformation, but her monster form is pretty cool looking, but in the end it's nothing special, and they don't do anything unique or interesting with their villain. She's a mermaid, doing the things that you'd expect an evil mermaid to do, because I don't know about you, but I have expectations for that. Number 9. So I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, but we go now to Indonesia for 2011's Arwah Kuntilanak Dayung, and we get our mermaid pretty immediately, and sure signs that she's evil with these eyes, and she eats a guy. So I ran the title through a translator app, and it gave me Mermaid Spirit. And apparently a kuntilanak is a wandering pregnant woman's spirit. So the title is a mermaid who is a kuntilanak. So I guess that she's a pregnant ghost mermaid, which is, that's a lot. And this guy helps a girl with a flat tire, and then they're literally in a hotel together, and he's saying he'll marry her tomorrow. Then they're headed straight to Bone Town, which I guess happens all the time when you change people's tires, and then they're buying a house together. Like, wow, this is moving very, very fast because they are married and they buy this villa together. Hey, American slow burn horror, this movie gave me a couple's introduction, their wedding, their first house, and introduced about 5 side characters in the first 10 minutes. I don't know what's going on or how it's all happening, but it's moving. This mysterious ghostly looking girl shows up, and then this thing called a pakong, which is a shroud ghost, which is the soul of a dead person wrapped in their shroud. And while looking that up, I discovered a movie called Pakong versus Kuntilanak, and now I want to do a whole movie on Indonesian spirits, I guess. The movie then just keeps introducing new people, and we haven't seen that married couple for 20 minutes now. There's been bike couriers, a midwife, and now a prostitute and her jerk client, and the mermaid just kind of shows up periodically, and then, I gotta tell ya, for how quickly everything starts in this one, it just kinda doesn't do anything in its second half hour, except, I guess, this. And yeah, this is such a strange movie. It makes no sense at all, and there's very little plot, but there is ghosts, mermaids, chainsaw killings, and yeah, the mermaid matters very little. Very little matters at all, actually. It's just odd, but entertainingly so, I guess.
Saya akan membalas dendam, Bang. Waktunya untuk membunuh kamu.
Number 8. Next is The Mermaid's Curse from 2019, directed by my old friend Louisa Warren, who had previously given us the Tooth Fairy movies, and begins with a young couple and a guy lured in by the voice of a woman with a scarred face, and I think he's killed. This editing is a bit incomprehensible. The girl is then killed by, I guess, shaking her? There's another Quinty guy here who tries to warn people about the mermaid, but she doesn't look very mer, and is mostly maid since she's just a woman in a white dress with pancake mix on her face. Jake finds her and takes her home, and she kills his roommate, and of course, Sean C. Phillip appears, and he's like Louisa Warren's muse because she had him in several other movies, and that's kind of become his role in films. People find out about a monster or myth, and they go online to look it up, and bam, Sean C. Phillips. Turns out there's more than one siren, but none of them have tails, so I'm starting to get suspicious. But I mean, it's called The Mermaid's Curse, and there's a mermaid on the cover, so we'd better get fish legs by the movie's end, damn it. Sailor Guy tells the story of sisters who were killed in the witch trials, and their spirits haunt the waters as sirens. But is it too late for Jake? Much like the other movies I've seen from Warren, it's mostly fine, but pretty dull and forgettable, and also, like the Tooth Fairy, isn't really about what the title says it is. There are no mermaids in this movie. They're just sirens, no tails or anything. And I would like to nominate this movie for the most ill-fitting credit music of all time.
Come to my room, I got lots of things. Let's have fun today.
Number 7. Okay, I'm probably going to regret this, but our next film is Guinea Pig, Mermaid in a Manhole. And yeah, if you don't know about the guinea pig movies from Japan, I'm sorry. I'm going to ruin your day. The GP films were conceived by manga artist Hidesho Hino, who wanted to make the films to adapt his own works, and were extremely violent and gory, full of torture and mutilation. It became notorious and was brought up as having influenced a Japanese serial killer, and became notable for that time that Charlie Sheen watched one and thought that he was watching a snuff film and notified the authorities. This was a really important moment because you just have to consider how good at interpreting reality that Charlie Sheen is, and realize that his opinion on the matter must have held a ton of sway. It turns out that he was just watching food fight, and it wasn't a woman being killed, but his career. That joke brought to you by 2010. Anyway, Guinea Pig 5, Mermaid in a Manhole, was from 1988 and was one of a few films of the series that actually did adapt one of Hino's works. Oddly though, people seem to be disputed about which number in the series it actually is, 4, 5, or 6. Some claim it was the 4th film produced, and others state it was the 6th, and yet IMDb has it listed as GP 5. So I guess pick a number? Any number? So this one is about an artist who finds inspiration in the sewers and one day finds a mermaid down there, as you do. He starts to draw her and her tail, but then discovers that she's got some sort of infection on her, and then decides to take her home. So in case you're curious, find a mermaid in the sewer, just chill and draw her. See boils on her? That's your cue to get her out of there. The infection grows, beginning to cover her body, and he slices open the boils and collects the colored liquid that comes out. The grossness intensifies as worms start emerging from the wounds. And yeah, I can't really show you any of this. I don't want to show you any of this. It was kind of dumb to put this on here, and it's pretty yucky and doesn't have much point. And I guess I point out that this is on that whole disturbing movie iceberg thing, and it's on tier 5. It's in the tier below necromantic and slaughtered vomit dolls. So I guess proceed at your own peril. Number 6. Here's another one that's pretty recent, and it's 2020's Mermaid Isle from Jason Mills, who has like 3 Bigfoot movies in his filmography. So I guess I'll run into him again in the future here. And I was torn between using this or another movie that looked equally bad, and I chose this, and it was only because it was only an hour and 8 minutes long. And hey, the first 9 minutes is just people walking in the woods. So good choice. This guy's going to propose, and oh yeah, the old I just have the ring loose in my pocket with no case while on a hike through a wooded area. People do that all the time. So goth girl goes in the water and something bites her, and wait a sec, this is supposed to be 1983? This movie is set in 83. Nothing about this looks like the early 80s. Did they do any research at all on clothing or hairstyles of the time period? This guy's haircut was not a thing in the 80s. After she gets bit, an old lady informs that the bite will cause the girl to become a mermaid and kill everyone, and that's what happens when you go in the lake, which seems like something you would want to prevent with, I don't know, something more than a tiny sign saying do not go in the lake. Soon, Shelly has transformed, and she's kind of hilarious looking, and sure seems to be easy to avoid, so luckily the victims just kind of sit in the water waiting for her. Like just get out, dude. There's no reason for this guy to be in the water. And when anyone gets bitten, they also turn into mermaids. So just, you know, stay away from the damn water. Think Toby here will try that? He kind of does and gets killed, but then the movie just like switches everything up and abruptly cuts to 4 months later. Like, what? I don't really get what this movie was going for. Why are you introducing new characters in the last 15 minutes? You were in the climactic finale of the film, and you suddenly just give me like 3 minutes of people we've never met taking a stroll in the snow. I should have watched the other one. I honestly believe the guy getting shot was supposed to be the end, but they realized the movie was less than an hour, so they went back and just filmed this stuff real quick to extend the length. Especially when nothing happens in it. There's not even any mermaids in this part. It's just 2 kids in the snow walking around and talking on walkie-talkies. Nothing makes sense. The decision to say it's in the 80s, the complete lack of any narrative arc, the villain that's supposed to be this horrible, terrible thing, yet only manages to kill one guy who is sitting in the water waiting for it, and then a weird extended ending that has no connection whatsoever to the previous hour and doesn't even reveal any new information. It's a completely disconnected scene. This may just be the most perplexing movie I've seen this year. I know it's early in the year, but I'm not likely to see something that'll get past this. Number 5. Guys, I have to tell you, so far, this whole mermaid thing has been a bit of a bust, but maybe it'll get better with 2018's Mermaid, The Lake of the Dead, which is a Russian film that starts with some mermaid info, with a little extra lore, in which if you spurn one, she'll haunt you until you give her your loved ones. The opening gives us an enchanted guy and a girl pulled down by creepy hands, and then a bunch of teens are having a party at a lake house. And Roma here encounters a mysterious woman with a dingle hopper, and they kiss. She begins haunting him, and it's revealed that Roma's dad was the guy from the beginning, and there's a grave at the bottom of the lake, and she's the spirit of a dead girl. And guess what? Yep. She's not a mermaid. She's a nymph, or I guess a siren, but she's not a mermaid. No tail or anything. So that's now the second movie that advertises a mermaid and doesn't actually feature one. Like, the movie is called The Mermaid. She does look pretty cool though. I'll give it that. All said and done though, it's pretty well made, but really nothing you haven't seen before. It's just kind of a ghost story with nice production values and a couple of memorable moments, but it's a little on the duller side of things. It kind of feels like a Russian Blumhouse movie, so if those are your thing, then you'll dig this. Number 4. Well, 2019's Mermaid Down better have a damn mermaid in it, that's for sure. This one's from Jeffrey Grellman, who had only done one movie 9 years earlier, and starts out with an old sailor discussing why mermaid have hair and whether they have coconut bras. And then, Jesus, is that Mitch? They end up actually catching a mermaid, tail and everything, and it looks great. And after a fight, they use an axe to chop off her tail and steal her bracelet. Ghost of Mitch, who's actually more of like a great value Vigo, kills the sailor but then takes her to a psychiatric home for girls. One of the attendants there is an imaginary friend, and we get a recap of what happened next. Being cut in half doesn't kill the mermaid, and instead she cocooned and grew human legs, but she can't walk and moves around with a wheelchair. Somehow, she can see the ghost girl and uses sign language, and this is apparently one of those movie-only psychiatric care homes that only accepts attractive young women. And there's this young doctor here, played by an actor named Philip Botello, and if you're wondering what he would look like back in 2009 working at a watch shop on Halloween when he forgot a costume and had to improvise one, here you go! Turns out the doc is pretty damn evil, and our girl figures out how to walk, and just when you're thinking, oh damn, this movie's about a mermaid, but she loses the tail really early on, so is it really a mermaid movie? It freaking grows back, and then things start to pop off as the doc goes a bit mad, and the film goes full on horror stalking and revenge. And I like this one. It's a bit of a mess with maybe too many characters and concepts that don't totally feel tonally consistent, and it's a bit slow in the middle, but I like the characters. I love the look, and it's got this great atmosphere going on, and it's the first one on this list that I would actually call quality. Number 3. You know, sometimes if you want to watch something good, you have to go to the classics. So let's give a shot to 1961's Night Tide, starring Lefty Enright, looking like a baby. I mean, Hopper was only 25 years old here, but had already been in the industry for over 5 years. But this was his first starring role. Sailor Johnny here meets a woman at a nightclub who works as a mermaid in a bar, putting on a fake tail in a sideshow, and Skipper! I mean, it's not him, but look at that outfit. Mora is stalked by an older woman, and it turns out that her 2 previous boyfriends were both found drowned, and she believes that she's a siren and is being compelled to return to the sea. Johnny has a dream that she's a real mermaid and pull the strings. Is she crazy or a siren? And will there be an actual damn mermaid in the film? This is a cool classic. It's a little on the slower side, but that's to be expected from 61. The highlight is seeing young Hopper basically playing a chill young dude, so removed from his over-the-top roles that he would soon become known for. In the film, the horror elements are kind of secondary, as it's more of an odd kind of romance thriller, but it was played up in the advertising, acknowledging some inspiration from Poe, and the film played as a double feature for The Raven, so it's in the realm. Plus, it's interesting to see, as an LA resident, 1960s Santa Monica Pier looking all mellow instead of the over-the-top tourist nightmare that it is now. Number 2. Okay, let's hope that we can keep this good movie trend rolling with 2001's Mermaid Chronicles Part 1, She Creature, which would then go on to be released as just She Creature. This was a movie made for Cinemax that was from a line of films from Stan Winston that would feature some good old-fashioned monster action. It was written and directed by Sebastian Gutierrez and featured John Murdoch as a carnival barker and Sally Jupiter as an attraction mermaid, as well as an attractive one. I should point out that there was an earlier film from 1956 also called She Creature, and this was Creature Features' gimmick. They would reuse titles from classic horror films, but not be actual remakes. They would just reinterpret what the title could represent. Our hucksters meet a man who has an actual mermaid in captivity, and when he has a heart attack, they take her with them. Lily starts to have some vivid nightmares and she starts messing with everyone's head, and this tale is pretty great, but I'm not sure that I would expect less from Winston's team. It actually won several of the coveted Fangoria Chainsaw Awards for that year, and one was for Best Creature Effects. This mermaid changes into human form under a full moon and for some reason can possess women during intercourse and allow them to be impregnated even if they're infertile. So, yep, Lily becomes pregnant. This one's pretty damn good stuff, even if it's a bit sluggish at times, but yeah, you can't beat those outstanding monster effects, even if there's a really unfortunate morph thrown in there for no reason. It got a bunch of attention when it came out and then kind of faded into obscurity, but it's absolutely worth another look. I mean, look how cool this thing is here. Number 1. Our final entry is 2015's The Allure, a Polish film that kicks off with a pair of mermaids encountering a family of musicians on the beach, and they follow them to a nightclub that they perform at. The owner discovers their nature, revealing some spectacular tales, and oh yeah, this is a musical. The girls become backup singers in the club, revealing their true nature, but in case you start to wonder why this musical extravaganza is on a list of horror mermaids, Golden kills and eats a man and carries his heart into the sea. Soon, the girls are their own act called The Lure, and they meet another sea creature here on land named Triton, and things just get progressively weirder and weirder as it seems like the girls are killed, but they're not dead, they're just eating people, and yeah, this one's pretty wild. Fair warning, it's one of the artsier of the films on this list, so if you're looking for a more traditional horror film, this one's not gonna be for you. I mean, I did say it's a musical, so if you are prepared for a weird, wacky time, you're gonna wanna hop onto this one as it's completely predictable, extremely beautiful, and ultimately pretty sad, although I will say that the Polish language element does limit the earworm potential of the songs here, and I guess there's no B. But I guess if you're faint of heart as far as nudity, this one is another one to stay away from because, again, there's not a ton of shots I can show you of the mermaids just hanging out. And I mean, the finale of the film involves one of the sisters forced to eat a guy she loves or else she'll turn into sea foam. So yeah, it's an odd one, but worth a watch. Bonus! You know what? No, we've had 2 movies on this list that didn't give us any mermaids. So I'm adding that one that I passed up back on. And it's Mermaid's Song from 2015, I guess also called Charlotte's Song. Ramsey is in this, and it's set in the 30s during the Dust Bowl. And when a young woman's mother mysteriously dies, she's raised by her father, and her grandmother tells her that mermaids are a thing. But then things get grim as she's sold into prostitution. Luckily, she merms out and attacks, but it's kind of hard to tell exactly what's going on in this movie because the sound mix is so out of whack. The music is all potted up really high and the dialogue is so low. I can't hear anyone, so I turn the sound up, and then the music kicks in and blows out my speakers. It turns out that Charlotte is a mermaid like her mom and has to decide whether to return home to the sea or stay with her dad, and there's some flashes of cool effects, but it's just ridiculously slow. So slow. But, like The Lure, it does have a few nice musical numbers in it. It's just way too much of a drama and not enough mermaid, although opposed to others, there is a mermaid in it, just not nearly enough of her, and she's, well, kind of silly looking. So there you have it, 11 movies that mostly feature mermaids or some sort of variation on them. I did not expect to have so many movies called Mermaid that did not have mermaids in them, but there you go. If you have seen some of these and enjoy them, or really dislike some of them, or if you want to know what the hell is going on in Mermaid Isle as much as I do, let me know. Let me know down below in the comments. And if this confuses you as much as it does me, also hit me up with that also. If you liked this video, please think about hitting that like button down below. If you enjoy what you see on the channel, I would hope that you would subscribe. If you want to know when new videos are coming out, then you're going to want to hit that bell. And also, if you want to help support the channel, you can go to patreon.com/movietimelines and help to kick some funds over to keep this channel going. These guys over here they are my patrons, and they're fantastic, and I thank them every single day, and I thank you guys for watching this video. I appreciate it, and I'll see you very shortly for another great one. Thanks a lot, and bye-bye.